sound of gentle waves lapping, then the low, muffled growl of a rubber boat engine. Voiceover begins, calm, precise, almost clinical. The air off the coast of Beirut is cool and tastes of salt and diesel. The date is April 9th, 1973. The time is 01:28 a.m. On the black water, 3 Zodiac inflatable boats cut through the Mediterranean swell, their engines throttled down to a conspiratorial whisper. In the lead boat, a man adjusts the strap of a woman's purse on his shoulder. His name is Ehud Barak. He is the commander of Sayeret Matkal, Israel's most elite special forces unit. Tonight, he is a brunette. The synthetic hair of his wig scratches the back of his neck. Underneath a fashionable spring dress, his chest is padded not with foam, but with 2 fragmentation grenades. Another is tucked into his purse, nestled against a silenced Beretta .22 caliber pistol. Taped to his thighs are slabs of plastic explosive, cold against his skin. He and the man next to him, Mookie Betzer, are supposed to look like lovers, a couple returning from a late-night party. The other 14 commandos in the boats are similarly disguised, a mix of men dressed as women and their male companions. They are a phantom force, a ghost army preparing to land on a tourist beach named Dolphin. Their destination is Verdun Street, a fashionable, high-rent district in the heart of West Beirut. It is also the operational nerve center of the Palestine Liberation Organization. The PLO feels safe here. They feel untouchable. They are wrong. Barak checks the luminous dial on his watch. 01:29 a.m. They are 4 minutes behind schedule. According to the plan, a Mossad agent on the shore should have flashed a prearranged signal with a flashlight 3 minutes ago. The beach is dark, silent. Radio silence is absolute. To transmit now would be to announce their arrival to every Lebanese army listening post on the coast. The mission has 2 possible states: go or abort. There is no middle ground. The Zodiacs idle, engines burbling, 50 meters from the sand. Every commando is a coiled spring of lethal potential, their eyes scanning the dark shoreline. Did the Mossad car get stopped? Was the agent captured? Is this a trap? Barak has 10 seconds to make a decision that will determine the fate of everyone here and potentially alter the course of the Middle East. He can turn the boats around and flee back to the Israeli Navy missile ships waiting over the horizon. Or he can give the order to land, blind, on a hostile shore, in the capital of an enemy nation. He feels the weight of the pistol in his purse. The seconds tick away. 5, 4, 3. He opens his mouth to give the abort command. Then, a single, impossibly faint pinprick of light flashes twice from the coastal road. The signal. It's late, but it's there. Barak doesn't waste a breath. He keys his radio for a single, encrypted click. The go command. The Zodiac engines roar to life, and the commandos surge toward the beach, a wave of disguised assassins about to crash into the heart of their enemy. The operation, codenamed Aviv Nurim, Spring of Youth, is on. To understand how a future Prime Minister of Israel found himself in a dress on a beach in Beirut, you have to go back 7 months. To a place of celebration turned into a slaughterhouse. Munich, 1972. The XX Olympiad. The world watched in horror as 8 members of the Palestinian terror group Black September stormed the Olympic Village, murdering 2 members of the Israeli Olympic team and taking 9 others hostage. The subsequent standoff and the botched German rescue attempt ended in a bloodbath at Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base. All 9 remaining Israeli hostages were killed. The world mourned. But in Israel, mourning was followed by rage, a cold, methodical fury. Prime Minister Golda Meir, the nation's iron-willed matriarch, convened a secret group of her top intelligence and military advisors. It was known only as Committee X. Its mandate was simple and utterly ruthless: hunt down and eliminate every individual connected to the Munich massacre. Every planner, every financier, every leader of Black September and the PLO who had blood on their hands. This was not a declaration of war. It was a death warrant. The campaign was given its own chillingly appropriate name: Operation Wrath of God. The hunt began immediately. Mossad's Caesarea division, its elite assassination unit, was unleashed across Europe. In Rome, Wael Zweiter, a PLO official and cousin to Yasser Arafat, was shot 12 times in the lobby of his apartment building. One bullet for each of the murdered Israeli athletes, plus one extra. In Paris, Dr. Mahmoud Hamshari, the PLO's representative in France, answered his telephone. A Mossad agent on the other end confirmed his identity, and a bomb planted in the phone receiver was detonated remotely. In Cyprus, a bomb in a hotel mattress killed Hussein al-Bashir, the Fatah commander. The message was clear. There were no safe havens, but these were individual killings, surgical strikes on the organization's limbs. The brain remained intact, sheltered in Beirut. The PLO leadership, including the masterminds of Black September, lived and worked there with impunity. They held press conferences, attended parties, and planned their next attacks from comfortable, well-guarded apartments. Yasser Arafat himself was the top target, but he moved constantly, his location a closely guarded secret. Striking at him was deemed too risky, the intelligence too thin. Hitting the leadership required a different kind of operation. Not a lone gunman or a simple bomb, but a full-scale military assault. The problem was geography. Beirut was not some European capital with porous borders. It was the heart of the Arab world, defended by the Lebanese army and crawling with thousands of armed Palestinian militiamen. A direct assault was impossible. Any attempt would have to be a masterpiece of deception, intelligence, and audacity. The key players for such a mission were a new generation of Israeli military leaders, forged in the fires of the Six-Day War. The first was the man in the dress, Ehud Barak. At 31, he was already a legend within the Special Forces community. The youngest ever commander of Sayeret Matkal, he was known for his obsessive attention to detail and his insistence on leading from the very front. He had a degree in physics and mathematics from the Hebrew University, and he approached mission planning like a complex equation, accounting for every variable, every possible point of failure. His defining skill was creative, unconventional problem-solving. If the front door was locked, Barak wouldn't just blow it open. He'd find a way to come in through the roof, disguised as a telephone repairman. His second-in-command for the Verdun street assault was Muki Betzer, a Matkal veteran whose calmness under fire was as legendary as Barak's planning. Providing security and heavy firepower for the operation was a force of paratroopers commanded by Amnon Lipkin-Shahak. He was the sledgehammer to Barak's scalpel, a commander skilled in controlling larger groups of soldiers in chaotic urban firefights. His job was to seal off the streets, engage any Lebanese or PLO forces that responded, and ensure the killed teams had the time they needed to work. A third Sayeret Matkal team was led by another rising star, Jonathan Yoni Netanyahu. His task was to attack a separate target, a PLO headquarters building. His reputation was built on speed and precision. Together, these men represented the sharpest tip of the Israeli military spear. But the spear was useless without someone to aim it. That was the job of Mike Harari. A veteran of the Palmach, the pre-state underground army, Harari was the head of Mossad's Caesarea division. He was a spy master of the old school. Shadowy, pragmatic, and possessing a vast network of agents, contacts, and safe houses across the globe. He was the architect of Operation Wrath of God, the man pulling the strings from a command post in Tel Aviv. It was Harari's network that would have to find a way into Beirut. The targets for Spring of Youth were not chosen at random. They were the three most important PLO leaders in Beirut, after Arafat himself. They were designated Target Aviv. The first was Mohammed Youssef al-Najjar, known by his nom de guerre Abu Youssef. He was Arafat's deputy, a senior Fatah commander, and the head of Black September. Intelligence identified him as one of the primary architects of the Munich attack. He was the brain. The second was Kamal Adwan, Fatah's chief of operations. He was responsible for directing all armed attacks against Israeli targets from within the West Bank and Gaza. He was the sword. The third was Kamal Nasser, the PLO's official spokesman and a member of its executive committee. A charismatic Christian poet and intellectual, his job was to sanitize the PLO's image abroad while simultaneously writing the fiery propaganda that inspired a new generation of recruits. He was the voice. Taking out these three men in a single, coordinated strike would behead the PLO's operational leadership in Lebanon. It would be a blow from which the organization might not recover. But first, Mossad had to find them. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source. A female Mossad agent, given the operational name Julie, was activated. Posing as a European writer researching a book, she rented an apartment in Beirut for 6 months. Her mission: to live among the enemy, to observe and to report. She integrated herself into the city's social scene, attending parties and gallery openings, all the while mapping the PLO's presence. Her great success was identifying a pattern. Many high-level PLO officials, enjoying their newfound status, had clustered in the affluent Verdun Street area. They lived in modern, multi-story apartment buildings, side by side with wealthy Lebanese businessmen and foreign diplomats. Julie managed to rent an apartment with a direct line of sight to 2 such buildings. For weeks, she sat at her window with a camera and a long-range lens, meticulously documenting the daily routines of the PLO leadership. She photographed their cars, their bodyguards, their visitors. She noted when they left in the morning and when they returned at night. She even managed to get inside the buildings, posing as a potential buyer, to sketch floor plans and note the position of security guards. Her intelligence was a gold mine. She confirmed it. Abu Youssef and Kamal Nasser lived in one building, a white 7-story structure. Directly across the street, in a green 6-story building, lived Kamal Adwan. All 3 kingpins were within a 100-meter radius. They were vulnerable. Julie's reports, complete with photographs and detailed architectural drawings, were smuggled back to Tel Aviv. The intelligence was deemed 100% actionable. The problem of what and where was solved. Now came the infinitely more complex problem of how. The plan that emerged from the IDF's planning division was breathtaking in its complexity and audacity. It was a multi-pronged assault involving naval forces, special operations teams, and Mossad agents on the ground. The core of the mission was Barak's Matkal team. Their task was to land on the beach, be driven by Mossad agents to Verdun Street, enter the 2 apartment buildings disguised as civilians, eliminate the 3 primary targets, and escape. Simultaneously, Yoni Netanyahu's team would attack a 6-story building that served as the headquarters for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, PFLP, a more radical PLO faction. This was meant to create a diversion and add to the chaos. Lipkin Shahak's paratroopers would hit a PLO bomb-making workshop and a vehicle repair depot. The entire operation, from the moment the first commando stepped on the beach to the moment the last one was back in the Zodiacs, was allocated a maximum of 30 minutes. The margin for error was 0. To prepare, an exact replica of the target section of Verdun Street was built at the Atom Special Forces training base in central Israel. Using Julie's photographs and sketches, Army engineers constructed full-scale models of the apartment building facades. They sourced the same model of Mercedes cars used by the PLO leaders and parked them in the correct positions. They even replicated the streetlights. For 5 weeks, Barak's team rehearsed the assault. They did it in daylight. They did it at night. They did it in silence, using hand signals. They did it with live fire. Every movement was choreographed and timed to the fraction of a second. How to approach the building without making a sound. How to use a specialized key to open the front lobby door. How to neutralize the night watchman with a silenced pistol. How to place the micro-shaped charges on the apartment doors to blow them inwards without bringing down the whole building. They practiced the room-clearing drills hundreds of times, memorizing the layout of each apartment until they could navigate them blindfolded. The most critical part of the rehearsal was the disguise. Intelligence reports indicated that Lebanese gendarmerie patrols were common in the area, but they rarely bothered amorous couples seeking privacy. A group of military-aged men, however, would be stopped and questioned immediately. The solution was radical. Some of the commandos would have to dress as women. Barak, as the commander, volunteered immediately. He and Mookie Betzer would be one couple. Another Matkal officer, Amiram Levin, and his partner would be the second. They were sent to a professional makeup artist in Tel Aviv who taught them how to walk, how to stand, how to carry a purse convincingly. The clothing was carefully selected to be fashionable, but also loose enough to conceal weapons and explosives. The purse wasn't just a prop, it was a weapon system. It was modified to hold a pistol and spare magazines in a way that allowed for a one-handed, rapid draw. The breasts were hollowed-out shells designed to carry grenades. The disguise was their primary shield. If it failed, the mission would end in a firefight on a Beirut street before they even reached their target. The technology assembled for the mission was a mix of off-the-shelf equipment and custom-built tools. The primary weapons for the assault teams were Israeli-made Uzi submachine guns, chosen for their compact size and high rate of fire, ideal for close-quarters combat inside an apartment. For the initial, silent approach and entry, they carried Beretta Model 71 pistols in .22 caliber, fitted with thick, effective silencers. The door-breaching charges were a new development. Small, adhesive plastic explosives with a shaped charge liner. The design focused the blast pressure directly onto the door's lock and hinges, ensuring the door would fly open without creating a massive, building-shaking explosion that would alert everyone prematurely. Communication was a major challenge. The teams needed to stay in constant contact with each other, with the command post on the missile boat and with headquarters in Tel Aviv. Standard military radios were too bulky and their transmissions too easy to intercept and locate. The solution was a new series of handheld transceivers that used encrypted, high-frequency burst transmissions. A whole message could be compressed into a split-second squawk of digital noise, almost impossible to pinpoint. The limitation, however, was their low power. In the dense urban environment of Beirut, filled with concrete and steel, signal reflection and dead spots were a constant worry. A team losing communication would be completely on its own. The most critical piece of technology, however, was not a weapon or a radio. It was the fleet of rented cars sourced by the Mossad agents already inside Beirut. Days before the operation, 3 agents, operating independently, rented 3 American sedans, a Chevrolet, a Buick, and a Plymouth, from different rental agencies across the city. American cars were chosen because they were common, and their large size was perfect for transporting the teams and their gear. Each car was taken to a secure location, a private garage rented by Mossad, and swept for bugs or tracking devices. The agents then had to perform the riskiest part of their job. On the night of the raid, they had to drive these cars to the designated pickup point near the Dolphin Beach, park them in a specific order, and wait. They were the commandos' only way in and only way out. If any one of them was stopped, arrested, or simply failed to show up, the teams they were supposed to transport would be stranded, and the entire multi-million-dollar operation would collapse on a lonely stretch of sand. The plan was a fragile chain of dependencies. The naval ships depended on the Zodiacs. The Zodiacs depended on the beach being clear. The commandos on the beach depended on the Mossad drivers. The drivers depended on the chaotic Beirut traffic and the unpredictable Lebanese patrols. And everyone depended on Ehud Barak's ability to hold it all together. On the night of April 9th, the plan began to unravel almost immediately. After the commandos landed on the beach and sprinted towards the waiting cars, the lead Mossad agent delivered the first piece of bad news. A Lebanese gendarmerie unit had established a surprise mobile checkpoint on the main coastal road, the planned primary route to Verdun Street. The agent had spotted it only an hour earlier. The meticulously rehearsed route was now a dead end. Barak, Betzer, and the Mossad agent huddled over the hood of the Chevrolet. A map spread out under the dim glow of a red-filtered flashlight. They had less than 2 minutes to plot a new course through a maze of backstreets they had only ever seen on maps and in aerial photographs. The agent, a seasoned veteran of Beirut's streets, pointed out a potential route, a winding path through residential neighborhoods. It was longer, more complex, and increased the chances of a random encounter with a police patrol or a group of PLO militiamen. There was no choice. Barak gave the nod. The teams piled into the cars, weapons concealed, hearts pounding. The 3 sedans pulled away from the beach and vanished into the sleeping city, their drivers now navigating entirely on instinct. The second crisis hit 10 minutes later. As the convoy approached the drop-off point for Yoni Netanyahu's team near the PFLP headquarters, they discovered a new and far more serious problem. The third car in their convoy, the Plymouth, was gone. It had been driven by the Mossad agent, tasked with supporting Netanyahu's PFLP assault team. The car was supposed to peel off at a specific intersection and drop Netanyahu's team at their staging area. But at the turn, the car had simply continued straight, disappearing into the night. Barak tried to raise the driver on the short-range radio. There was only static. He tried again. Nothing. The agent and his car had vanished. Netanyahu's team was now in Barak's car, crowded in with the Verdun Street assault force. They were at the wrong location with no transport, and the clock was ticking. The mission had reached another breaking point. They could abort Netanyahu's part of the operation, consolidating forces for the main effort on Verdun Street. This was the safe, logical option. Or they could improvise. Netanyahu argued forcefully to continue. His target, the PFLP headquarters, was only a kilometer away. They could proceed on foot. It was a massive risk. A group of men moving through the streets, even in civilian clothes, was far more conspicuous than a car. But the PFLP building was a known bomb factory. and the intelligence suggested a major attack was imminent. Neutralizing it was a high priority. Barak weighed the options. Aborting the PFLP attack would mean the diversionary explosions wouldn't happen, potentially allowing more enemy forces to converge on his own position at Verdun Street. He looked at Netanyahu. He saw the determination in his eyes. Barak made the call. "Go," he said. Netanyahu and his 3 men slipped out of the car and melted into the shadows of a side street, now a ghost team, cut off and on foot, moving toward their own destiny. Barak's own car, with the remaining teams, continued toward the primary objective. The risk to the entire operation had just doubled. They arrived at Verdun Street at 1:31 a.m. The street was quiet, bathed in the yellow glow of the streetlights. The Mossad driver pulled the Chevrolet to a smooth stop. The 2 couples, Barak with Betzer and Amiram Levine with his partner, got out. They began a slow, theatrical stroll down the sidewalk, pretending to be lovers looking for the right apartment building after a night out. They laughed quietly, Barak's hand on Betzer's arm. Inside, their senses were on fire. They scanned every window, every doorway, every shadow. A blue Renault police car turned onto the street and began to cruise slowly towards them. Barak's blood ran cold. He whispered to Betzer, "Keep walking. Don't look at them." The police car slowed as it drew alongside them. The 2 officers inside stared at the 2 couples. Barak forced a smile and leaned in to whisper something in Betzer's ear, a gesture of intimacy. Betzer laughed on cue. It was the longest 10 seconds of their lives. The officers in the car seemed to lose interest. They were looking for trouble, for criminals or militiamen, not for lovers. The Renault accelerated and continued down the street, disappearing around the corner. The commandos exhaled in unison. They had passed the test. Their cover was holding. They reached the entrance to the first target building, the white 7-story structure where Abu Yusuf and Kamal Nasser lived. A second team from the car, led by Amnon Lipkin Shahak, peeled off and moved silently across the street towards the green building, Kamal Adwan's residence. The 2 assault teams were in position. Barak checked his watch. 1:33 a.m. He gave the signal. The raid began. Lipkin Shahak's team reached Kamal Adwan's building first. A commando produced a specially cut key, a copy made from a wax impression obtained by the Mossad agent, Julie. The key slid into the lobby door lock. It turned. The door clicked open. They slipped inside. The lobby was empty except for a single security guard, dozing in a chair next to the elevator. Before the guard could even stir, a commando was on him, a silenced Beretta leveled at his head. A single, soft foot, and the guard slumped over, neutralized. The team moved up the stairwell, their rubber-soled shoes making no sound on the marble steps. They reached the 6th floor, apartment 603, Adwan's home. 2 commandos knelt by the door. They carefully placed the adhesive breaching charge over the lock mechanism and the hinges. They unspooled the detonation wire and took cover. Across the street, Barak's team was performing the exact same ballet of silent infiltration. They entered the lobby of their target building. No guard. They moved to the elevator and rode it to the 5th floor, to the apartment of Kamal Nasser. They placed their charge. Another team from Barak's group ran up the stairs to the 7th floor, to Abu Yusuf's apartment, and